Hi guys, this is Aggie Travel on Her Shoes. Long time no see. If you are only following me on YouTube, then you probably just assumed I am dead because I haven't uploaded a proper video in forever. However, I am daily on Instagram. I basically live on Instagram and I upload daily stories, so I kind of feel like uh, like I haven't disappeared and I put so much work into my Instagram content, but I realized that what I really miss about my Instagram only life is that there is not enough depth, and there are a few things I can't really communicate in stories, and here I am back on YouTube. And I just realized that today is actually 2 years since I started my Instagram, and the number one question I get in DMs, and I get about 300 DMs a day, and like half of them would be like, how did you become a travel blogger? How do I become a travel blogger? Can you make a living out of travel blogging? And how does one become a travel blogger? So I think if I got $5 every time someone asked me this question, I would be a millionaire. So yeah, it's something that I wanted to talk about because I figured it's just easier to have like a proper sit down video and I can explain to you how everything works and how I started and like what would be my advice for anyone who wants to become a travel blogger. So let me start by telling you my story about how I became a travel blogger, and then I can just give you some feedback and advice based on my experiences and mistakes and failures that I've encountered over the past 2 years. It's kind of funny to think because just to think that I went from like literally 0 followers to 500,000 followers across YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at this point, it's pretty impressive. And I didn't think I would be so successful, and I'm so grateful that I was able to figure out a way to communicate my message with the world, which is again something that's kind of beyond me. So let me start from the beginning. So I was always a traveler. I traveled ever since I was 18. I didn't travel up until I was 18 because my family was poor and they didn't like traveling at all. So I know a lot of people that would go camping even if they didn't have money, or they would go exploring over the weekend, go for hikes and walks and etc. etc. We weren't that poor that we couldn't afford it. It's just my family like wasn't into it. My mom and dad preferred to like watch TV and kind of like stay in the city, and they're just not outdoorsy kind of people. And I was, so I kind of felt frustrated, and I became a scout when I was I think I was 12, and I loved like camping in the forest with girls, and that was like my great excuse to get out there. But I still haven't traveled internationally. So when I was 18, I worked as a waitress right after my final exams in high school, and I decided not to go to university, which was basically like a death sentence in Poland and for my parents, because to them the most important thing for their daughter was to go to university. So my entire identity was linked to just becoming a successful person working for a corporation. So when I decided not to go to university, my parents were devastated, and I wanted to see the world, so I decided to travel to Australia for a year and learn English because my English was super basic, and I wanted to learn English because it was so exciting to me that there's like one language that only like that you have to just speak and then you can communicate with so many people around the world. And my English was very bad, so I worked as a waitress right after finishing high school for a few months, and I was able to save enough money to go to Australia on my own. This is where I started my very first blog. I honestly don't remember the name. I'm sure it had a name, but it was basically like a website where I could like basically put all my stories from my family and like 10 friends, so they know what I'm up to. And that basically lasted about like a month, because in Australia I met a guy and I was so distracted. Fast forward 5 years later, I was 24, still with that guy that I met in Australia, and we decided to go sailing across the world. So in the meantime, I was studying in Australia, we're traveling the world, we're always kind of doing adventurous things, and it became kind of like my new identity. So we decided to go sailing across the Pacific, and that's where we start our next, my second blog, travel blog. This one was called Heading Liberty. My third attempt to travel blogging was when I was 28. So pretty late. And of course at that time everyone was already on Instagram. That was 2 years ago. Everyone's already like huge following. I didn't even know what Instagram was. I didn't have an Instagram account because I was like disconnected sailing. And the funny thing is, I honestly thought that everything's already been done and everyone's already so far ahead that there's no point for me to even start. And I think that's like the worst thinking you can possibly have, because what I know for sure, and I've heard it from like million like experts around the world, it's like you don't ever have to be the first person to do something, you just have to do it better. And it's true for anything that's already existed, whether it's Lyft, Uber, or Airbnb. It's not like, or even Facebook. Facebook wasn't the first social media platform, but they were better. I strongly believe that even though I'm at 500,000, there are people that are 5 million. If you're like 500 followers or like 50 followers, it's not too late. Yes, it's not as easy to go viral as it used to be back in the day. And these people that are at 5 million, they just were lucky that we're at the beginning of this platform and Instagram was really pushing a lot of the users to grow. But it's, again, I think that it is possible and it's never too late. So keep that in mind, whatever it is that, if that's what you're thinking of doing. So I posted my very first photo on Instagram in March 2016. And then with the idea of traveling her shoes, then I did nothing for 6 months. And then in December 2016, instead of just dumping like a random photo about like, hey, I just posted a YouTube video, or just like whatever it was that was on my phone, it's like maybe I should like pay more attention of how pretty this stuff are. And sure enough, it took me like 3 to 4 months to actually research and find pretty accounts, because I was following celebrities and I just assumed that the way you run your social media is to share like intimate moments with other people of your travels, and I was kind of treating it as my personal account, and then I realized that it has to be a certain standard. That anyways, long story short, I started posting and I committed myself, which seemed so crazy at that time. Like I couldn't believe it, because I wasn't traveling as often. I was like, I'm gonna post once a day. And I was like, I don't have that many photos like from all my travels from the past, but I'm like, I believe that it's possible. So I committed myself to post once a day random photos from my past travels, and then I started doing little weekend trips, and then I slowly started growing, very, very slowly. I was very lucky because there was this platform called Flippergram that I used once to create and to edit a video from my Instagram, and that platform, my video on that platform went viral. I got like 4 million views on my video, and then that got me a little bit of a following there, which was 70,000 like pretty much overnight, and that translated into some like early traction for Instagram, which was great. And I have to say, yeah, it's like I feel like the first 1,000, it's so painful. It took me months and months and months and months. So that was like already at that time, I was already March, April, so like a year from my first photo of uploading a YouTube video. And then 4 months later, I decided to give it full attention and not work. And this is a very tricky system. I don't think it's a good idea. I was lucky that because I have a very supportive partner, I was like, let me give it 100%. Are you okay with us not really having a lot of money, and we're not going to be making a lot of money for the next year or two up until the time I'll be able to grow it? Are you okay with that? Are you okay for taking sacrifices, because we'll have to be traveling and we'll have to be not making as much money? And Michael has been extremely supportive. Slowly but surely, I was posting photos and videos, and then we invested into a better camera. Then we started getting invited on different trips, etc., etc. And that's how I grew to where I am right now, which is at 460 something thousand followers. That's my story, and now I'm gonna tell you and answer all the questions, because I kind of like breezed through the like most important. Sorry for a quick break. I just had to get myself a coffee because I felt like I'm falling asleep. I'm totally jet lagged back from Africa yesterday, so the 9-hour difference is really just hitting me hard right now. But I still want to record this video and tell you everything I know. All right. So number one advice: do not think you're too late. You don't have to be the first travel blogger. You just have to be. Not necessarily better, but you are better just by being yourself. So whenever you connect with someone as a friend, it's the same idea of connecting yourself as influencers. It's not like you have to do anything differently. It's just by being yourself, you are already different by default. So try to be as true to yourself as possible, which involves not looking at what everyone else is doing all the time. And just like whenever I go to a new location, I actually don't really look at what photos have been taken there anymore. I just kind of like go and see what works. And I think that's what helped me kind of stand out a little bit, because the moment I do, I can't unsee these photos and I end up taking something similar and I'm not happy. So my number one rule is just not to check photos from other people and creators out there. So that really helps if you're original. You just have no choice but to like come up with something on your own. No, oh my god, I'm so sleepy. Another question that people ask, okay, how did you get your numbers? How did you grew like crazy? I think a very good advice is that people have to know you're serious about something. So how do they know? I feel like if I see, it's like almost easier when you get bigger, that you grow so much faster, because people are like, oh, this person has like 2 million followers and I don't know about them. Like there's something, like I'm missing out on something. So they're just like, the more followers you have, the easier it is for sure. But people want to know you're serious. They don't want to like waste their follow button onto someone that just kind of wants to start. And I get so many DMs from people like, Aggie, I'm starting my blog. Can you please share my blog on stories? And I go to their profile and I posted one photo and I have 12 followers. And I'm like, okay, like, how do I know if you're serious? You put zero work. And yes, we all want to spread the message. But if someone approached me with 500 photos and I said, Aggie, I really want to share my blog. I have 16 followers, but I've put so much work. I posted 500 photos. And honestly, even if you post 500 iPhone photos that you can see that you thought about them and you wanted to create something great, I'll be more than willing to help you. But 99% of requests that I get in DMs to promote someone's page, the pages don't have more than like 10 photos. And it's like, I'm like, no, like you didn't put any effort. Of course, like people just want to have like a shortcut. How do I grow? I'm like, freaking post. Like I posted over 1,000 photos, like easy, but I've taken 100,000 photos, like 100,000 photos for sure in the last 2 years. And I never wanted to be like, I would go to like Okutur, who's my biggest inspiration. I'm like, I don't deserve to have as many followers as her, because her photos are so much better. So my question was like, how do I take photos like her? How do I, not to copy her style, but to know, like, how do I learn to be better? Does it take a camera? Do I need to use Lightroom? And yes, I have invested in my camera. I never really spend money on other things. As a travel blogger, there's so many levels, but I think you have to become very smart with saving money too. And I live with Michael, and I don't live with my parents since I was 18. But I know like very, very successful travel bloggers, like 90% of people, not 90, but like 80% of bloggers that you look up to right now and they think like they're super cool, they actually still live with their parents even though they're like 30 years old. So a lot of times there's this illusion of like travel bloggers like killing it and having such a cool lifestyle, but because we're gone from home for so much and it's so expensive to pay rent and travel, people would just get very good at saving money. And like I said, if you actually look into the stories of travel bloggers that you look up to, you will realize they actually still live with their parents in their 20s and 30s. So don't feel bad about yourself. It's not as glamorous as you might think. Another thing about travel blogging is like, yes, you have to figure out your own way to travel. I think it surprises me that people that never traveled before want to become travel bloggers, because to me it's like, if I want to be a makeup blogger or an influencer, I kind of want to be passionate about makeup before wanting to become authority in it. Like I have to put in all that work. So I traveled for like 7 years before I became a travel blogger, because I felt like, oh, I have something to offer. I've learned so much about traveling and packing and different countries that I can share with the world. I don't feel comfortable becoming a beauty blogger. And if I was, I feel like I would want to like test on myself all these techniques for years, and then I kind of would have a feeling of like, I want to share it. With that said, there are a lot of people that never traveled before and they kind of become a travel blogger after visiting like 4 countries. Good for them. Just not exactly what I would consider as authority. And I think maybe perhaps because I travel so much and I'm like a real adventurous person, it was my part of, people could see it in my blog. It's like, oh, she's a real deal. Like she actually always traveled and it's been always her dream and she has experience and yeah, and they follow me because of that. My whole thing was that I was very consistent, posting every single day, and I wanted to create this relationship. So the idea is that you want to make sure that people come to your page and they're 100% sure that there is something there for them every day. If not every day, every second or third day. And it can't be something like, oh, I go on a trip, I post 20 photos, and then I'm at home for 3 weeks, so I don't post anything. No, space it out if you're a travel blogger. If you don't go, like, post something from your, you know, like, I travel all around California when I wasn't traveling abroad. And the whole idea is that you want to make sure that people just like have that relationship, and then once they follow you, they know there will be content out there. They don't want to like get the content, basically what I'm doing with the other one, and then like be quiet for 6 months. So that's never good. You just want to have that relationship and show up on stories and be relatable. And I always reply to DMs, even though I get too many of them. But that was my whole thing. I'm like, I want to, like, I check my DMs like 10 times a day. Well, 10 times an hour probably, because I want to learn from people. I want to talk, and I think that people can tell that I care what they think, and that creates a really cool community. So there are different kinds of revenue streams for bloggers in general and for travel bloggers. I guess for travel bloggers it's not as easy to make money as it would be from makeup and beauty bloggers, but let me explain to you. So I'm just gonna talk from my example of how I started making money. So as I was traveling, I would get like my first deal where like a watch company or boots company would send me an email and ask me if I want to like take a photo with their watch in exchange for, they would send me a free watch if I want to post a photo with it. At the beginning, there will be a lot of companies asking you to stuff for free. I never felt the need to validate my space in the community by wanting to do collaboration. It's very, very tempting when you're young and people are like, how many followers did you have when you started working with hotels? Or how many followers did you have when you had like, you know, you got paid to promote something? And I'm like, yes, it is interesting, but to me, like, it was never really like a thing. The more I grew, the more like I would get emails. I never really seeked out these emails. I know there's so many people that at 30K work with so many brands. I remember I was at like 150,000 and I went on a girls trip and all the girls were like about 30, 40,000. They were all working with brands, getting paid. And I'm like, okay, like I am not, just because it's like, I never seeked out, and I oftentimes said no. Or like, if it's not like, basically my rule is like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So I reject 90% of jobs and offers I get. And I never really struggle with it personally, because taking good photos for me, it's like way more important and exciting than just posting something for a brand that I have like no, you know, I'm not super crazy about. And I think I always, you know, in all the like management books I always read, that the most successful people say no more than anyone else out there, and I think it's so true. So I think my success was coming from that trust with followers, that they knew I'm not gonna like post about anything, and they knew that I really care. And I guess not a lot of people unfollowed me because of it. So I don't think there's a particular number. I know people that collaborate a lot with brands at 30K. There are people that don't at 100K. Like I was super late to like collaborating. And even now, I would rather collaborate with like 2 brands for a way bigger budget than, you know, 2 smaller jobs for free or for a little bit. A lot of jobs at the beginning are on an exchange basis. And a general rule of thumb is that if you say, for example, have 100,000 followers, your rate is about $1,000. If you have 200,000, it's $2,000 for one Instagram post. Then you can add stories, you can add blog posts, you can add YouTube videos. YouTube videos, you can get paid way more than that if you want. And these are just US prices, and they're very approximate because it really depends on the brand. A lot of times people ask me, oh, what about hotels? With hotels, it's tricky. And it's like, because like I said, there are a lot of people that can't see value in influencer marketing, and there are some people that do. But for example, a lot of my posts are seen from anywhere from 250,000 people, which is like low, to 500,000 people, per post, per one photo. So imagine if I stay somewhere, you add stories, which is like another thousands and thousands of views. And it just becomes like it adds up. So yeah, I think that's how bloggers make money. With hotels, it's very different. So there are hotels that would send out an email. They're ready to fly me over with a +1, cover everything from flights to transport, to food, to activities, everything included in exchange for photos. And they give you a fee on top of that, just for your time and, depending whether they want more photos. There are hotels that I'm like, recently, when I'm traveling somewhere and I email a hotel, hey, I'm currently in Africa or currently in Philippines. This is a trip that I just came on my own. Is there any chance that you can give me, let me stay for free in terms of photos? I never have the balls to like approach a hotel that I want to stay with just so I don't have to pay for a place to stay and ask them to pay me, but I'm sure I know people that do, and some hotels agree. But yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I oftentimes reach out to hotels that are just like on my path as I want to travel somewhere. With that said, a lot of people ask me how many of your trips are sponsored and which ones are not. So when I started traveling, 100% I traveled on my own. Then I started getting invited, and some of the trips were like epic and they sounded so cool, so I would go. Toward the last year, I think like 90%, 80 to 90% were sponsored, and 10-20% were on my own. And now it's the reverse, because I basically just turned down all the trips, and I'm kind of like, no, I want to have more independence in my content creation, and I organize my own trips and go where I want to go and make money from posting beauty products or fashion deals or something like that. So that's how I make money. Words of encouragement. What would be okay, I feel like this is going to be the longest video in the world, so I'm just going to quickly wrap it up. Let me know if you have any more questions in the comments below. If there's anything I haven't answered, let me know. I'm going to do a spin-off of that video if there's like a ton of things that I didn't answer. I feel like I did, but if not, let me know. And if you like this video, leave me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would love that. And if you are not following me on Instagram, it's time to change it. I would love to have you there. Lots of love. Thank you for watching. Bye.